See, I knew it, you
Mississippi
gotta
has
time it just right.
such a variation.
Gotta get the
in
deer.
cars.
Down here, yes.
That some of you have encountered, for instance, one of our good board members even had to hitchhike and get a truck to come down and be with us here. Morning.
We gotta have it down there.
And of course, I'll let her describe that to you after this meeting's over. I'm sure you get it, and then that
Oh, you can say about me,
experience
I'm
that
loyal.
you've had. But seriously, we have had problems. To begin with, we're planning on a convention this fall, with an election this fall, and the courts, of course, threw out the election law, and we had to improvise and make all kinds of arrangements in order to have the convention tomorrow. And then after we got through this hurdle, so to speak, and made arrangements to have the convention out here, we discovered that we've had problems we didn't even know about. They changed the name of the hotel, for instance, and some people have been running down that highway out there trying to find the place. Several hours. And on top of that, CWA and IBW decided they'd have their state meetings today. We got 3 different meetings going on, and the people at the front desk out there, they don't differentiate between the 3 different groups, so, they don't tell what we'll have here before the day is over. Now, the main business of this meeting, of course, is to adopt some recommendations for the meeting this afternoon. And of course, the meeting this afternoon, in turn, will be responsible for presenting our endorsements to office and what have you to convention tomorrow. Now, we prepared a report, result of the interviews of the executive committee, which all of you should have a copy in front of you. But before we get into that, I've got a couple items that I'd like to present to you to get some action on for Brother Knight and myself especially. I don't anticipate a problem, but let me explain to you what the situation is. We have several areas of the state where we don't have a central labor union, where we do have some good legislators, and in some cases some bad legislators, but nevertheless we don't have the organization to do the job in these areas. Therefore, we'd like to get some authority from the board for Brother Knight and myself to work in these areas to set up an organization to try to elect the friends we have, and in some cases possibly defeat some enemies that we have. For instance, in the Macomb area, the CLU is defunct down there. We don't actually have an organization. But we do have a couple of good legislators down there that we feel that we ought to re-elect. And the only way that I can see that we can do that is for you to authorize Brother Knight and myself to be responsible to go into these areas and set up an organization to work with these legislators. Now, last night I mentioned this to a couple of you about Clark Reeves and what's the other guy's name, Tom? William Guy. Who is a guy, of course, is being opposed by Tullis Brady, who is the ultra-conservative of the whole legislature. Think of this tonight. Then the other situation that comes to mind is Bob Clark, the black legislator, first guy that's served over there for 100 years, a black guy, who has been very good. These are two distinct situations that, we have to deal with. So I'd like to get some action from you authorizing Tom and myself to work in behalf of these three incumbent legislators, who have also committed themselves in the speaker's race.
Mr. Chairman, I move that you be empowered to do so.
Second motion.
Any further discussion? This means, of course, that you are authorizing us to work for these three people that's got good records and any other situation that might develop where we don't have a central aid council. Is this correct?
Correct.
Okay, any discussion?
What's Clark's position up there? What kind of opposition has he got? Has his district been changed?
Good question. He is from Holmes County, and under the redistricting plan that the courts come up with, Humphreys County's put in his district, which means he's got two counties to run from now instead of the one. You know what I'm talking about? I understand that he's not running in the primaries. He's running as an independent in an election. Now, this guy Love, a former member of the House, I understand, is running. A couple of guys, I think, run in the primary. But you will have a problem in the fact that he's got two counties instead of one.
Thinks he can do better running as an independent than he can in the primaries?
Well, I don't quite understand everything that goes on in this business. My old blacks decided to run as independents, but in one particular situation, and we'll get into that in a few minutes, I think it might have served a purpose. You know. You ready for the motion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Now, a couple of things that have come up here since our last board meeting that, we've never took a position on that I think we need to examine a little bit and discuss. One is that we've been approached by, several of the primarily women's groups in the state about supporting the move to establish a kindergarten within the public school system. We've never took a position on that. And of course, I think that it's a good thing, and I'm sure that everybody present believes that it is. We need to establish, you know, a lower grade kindergarten within the public school system. But the fact is, we've never gone on record before we can do anything in this thing. We need to go on record. So I'd like to present that to you this morning for decision.
Mr. Chairman, isn't this supported by the state,
Yes.
Board of Education?
Right, and we've got literature on it and stuff like that, but we've never really took a position. And I hate to get out here on my own and start to work on something without the organization being on record in my head, but,
Ask a question, is there any organized group in the state, that has come out in opposition to, or is anybody opposing it, from an organizational standpoint?
outside of the Bird Society, Citizen Council, I'd say no.
Well, what was all of the opposition on over regulating the,
Daycare center.
Daycare
That's
center.
the next one I'll present to you, behind the kindergarten thing, is the proposition of the need to establish, you know, licensing, bona fide daycare center.
For the creation of this kindergarten in the public school system, would this completely do away with the presently operating OEO Head Start centers?
I assume that eventually it would, and I assume that probably one of the main reasons behind this is that a lot of progressive-minded people have recognized the need of getting down lower, you know, with the kids.
In other words, you think they're trying to put a permanent
Right.
situation in the schools, and they feel that the OEO Head Start programs will finally be phased out, and they're
Right.
trying to get this permanently in the school
Well,
system.
of course, the Head
for the
Start
future.
thing, you know, is more or less voluntary, and,
Right.
I think most of the school officials realize that in this day and age that we need to start sooner with the kids. And that public education ought to be responsible for it. You know, frankly, I think
But-
it's a very good thing, and of
but
course,
it-
it's gonna cost a lot of money, you know.
Well, that's one thing, and at the present time, the situation that schools is in and the controversy it's caused all over the state. You think this is a time for that? Would it be possible to even get it past the legislature now with it? They don't know from one day to the next what the public school situation's gonna be. It changes every day, and then we just involve a lower grade in it. And you think there's any chance of, with the situation the way it is, of getting it through the legislature now, even if we endorse it or not?
Well, in fact, you know, this is one of these things, that's not gonna happen tomorrow. It's kinda like a couple of other items on our program. It's been there for a number of years that we work toward. I frankly don't think this is gonna happen right away, but if we're gonna work toward this type of objective, we need to be on record. You know what I'm talking about, frankly speaking, those of you that was on the interviewing committee when we interviewed the candidate for governor, lieutenant governor, recall some of the discussion we had with some of the candidates about the need of changing curriculum in the schools and all this stuff, aimed towards, doing a better job of, getting the kids, ready for holding a job, you know, vocational ed and all these things. I think we need to think about all of these things together. One of them, of course, is the kindergarten thing, about doing something with kids at an early age.
Well, I see one difference between that program and the Head Start program. The Head Start program is aimed primarily at poverty level children.
Right.
And this program would be available to all children regardless of their family status, and it'd just be a matter of putting the emphasis on the education at an earlier age is really
Right.
what it boils
That's
down
what
to.
it ends up to.
And apparently a child is more receptive at this age than they are as they get older by government studies, and I'm personally in favor of it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to put this organization in a favorable light, where we could work towards that end when it becomes apparent that we should. I'd like to move that we go on record in favor of supporting the establishment of a kindergarten in our public school system.
Get a second.
Second.
We have any further discussion?
One further question, Mr. Chairman. At this point, what will we do with that situation? Say we go on record for it, in what way will we use it?
Well, of
As
course.
opportunity affords and
Yeah.
that sort of thing?
Right.
Just-
Well, of course, let me explain something to you. We have a kind of a unofficial ad hoc committee that I've been working with, for the last several years concerning public education and the whole lot. And we have in that particular group, MEC, Manufacturing Association, MEA, MTA, and everybody that's concerned about education is involved in this particular thing. When the legislature's in session, we meet, and we agree on the role, in other words, that all of us agree that we can work towards doing something to better education in the state. This was one of the items, and we had never been on record as far as kindergarten was concerned, and I wanted to get a position on it.
That answers my
Okay.
question.
You ready for the question?
Mr. Chairman, just a comment. Organized labor is the backbone of public education.
Right.
Has been since its inception. And in recognition by the educators that we must get our children in school at an earlier age.
Right.
There is even 3 years of age considered now the beginning of beginning of an education of a child. So I don't see that we can take any other position, frankly.
Okay, you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. I want to take those to Brother Grantham, Chair. How you doing this morning? Now, the other thing, of course, is the licensing of daycare centers. I think that, if you kept up with the situation during the last session of the legislature, you possibly read about the controversy that arose, especially in the Senate, when the Hinds County Senator Hayden Campbell sat on the bill that would have licensed daycare centers. And the result was that bill died. Now, in my opinion, there is a real need in this state for bona fide licensed daycare centers whereby a working mother will have a decent place to leave her child while she's at work. But this organization's never took a position, just like the one we just took up. So I'd like to present that to you now for some discussion.
Well, Claude, I think you know about it, the other board members may not. The Amalgamated Clothing Workers, my own organization, has taken this project on in some of the big cities, and we're now asking the companies that we deal with as a matter of negotiations to provide money for these daycare centers, and we have some in the city of Baltimore, Maryland, and we're trying to develop some in New York and other places. As a matter of negotiation, as a union benefit, that they help operate these daycare centers for our people who work in their factories. So I'd be in favor of daycare centers myself. I think the problem in the present situation is there's no regulations. Any mother can say, I've got a daycare center. And there's no regulation as to what conditions she has to operate under or what facilities she has to have for the child. And if she happens to live in a shack that it leaks when it rains, and there's no state law that says she can't keep 10 people's children in that building, even though it may be unsanitary and it may be health hazards like open ditches and so on all around the place. And this is really the problem, as I understand it, is enough regulations that you ensure the health of the child in these centers rather than just no regulations on the matter.
Well, that's it. You summed it up real well.
And there's quite a few of these that he described in operation today.
Oh, absolutely.
In the city of Jacksonville.
In every place in this city.
Department of Health, I assume, would be
Health and welfare,
responsible for policing it. Can we get a motion?
Wasn't that the big objection to the thing in the last session of the legislature, there'd be a lot of federal controls on it? Wasn't that what they beat it with?
Of course, it never did get up for a vote, you know, in the Senate. Campbell, it passed it
Yeah, I
out.
know, but-
Campbell killed it in his committee. He wouldn't hold it in the meeting, as a matter of fact, if you remember. And of course, that situation there is similar to 2 or 3 others that we're faced with. One of them, of course, is the Health Safety Act that was passed. If the state doesn't do something in this area, then the federal government will be responsible for policing that act. And of course, the same might well apply to the daycare. If the state of Mississippi doesn't do something in this area, then it might well be that the federal authorities would be responsible for policing it or doing something in the area, you know.
Mr. Chairman, in the in the bill that was presented, was there any factor in there that would regulate the amount of money that these places could charge for the care of a child? Was there any regulatory item in the bill that would regulate the maximum charge that these places could charge for taking care of a child for 8 hours?
I don't think there was anything in there about more or less regulatory licensing, and they'd have to meet certain standards. So
Buildings would have to be up to certain standards, and the personnel in the center have certain training and so on.
Baker stays up too, federal,
Yeah.
trying to control.
Somebody else got a problem. It's gonna be innocent before this thing's over. After people will get here, they can't fight.
I made a fire call to a private home that was keeping a bunch of these kids And of course, they'd left them playing out in the garage and had a can of gasoline out there, and they poured the gasoline out and set it on fire and severely burned a couple of them.
Well, you ought to really, you know, the firemen, I guess probably in about as good a position to know what the devil's really going on in some of these places, but I don't think. You know.
On the other hand, we fought for about 10 years to get, license and regulations and inspection of these homes for the aged, where they're burning them up every year, and hell, we couldn't get nothing passed on.
There's one in Columbia.
No fire alarm system, no exits, and no nothing, they just burning them up 30 and 40 at a time, but you try to get a bill passed on at the legislature, and
It's just
Well,
a very
you know,
simple
this is another
situation.
area of concern, it
Just
really
different
is,
today.
the old age
Yeah.
situation. You might wanna get this into the motion that you, if you want to, was to work towards the objective of licensed daycare centers include also these
Home for the aged.
I think they should be.
It's another area of real concern. I remember back here last year, when one burned down in Greenville and burned up a whole slew of people.
yeah.
And because they didn't have proper safety.
We worked on it for years there along in conjunction with the State Board of Health, but we couldn't even get a bill out of committee on it.
You do have a little more control now because of Medicaid and Medicare.
Right.
They have to meet some standards, and
Like
this
shelter
is a source
centers
of
that
revenue.
take care of the situation, but this, over there in the Delta, they had a real problem in one of theirs over there. Well, they had some in Memphis like that, they were awful, but they just about done away with all of that with the Medicare and Medicaid. Yeah,
There's
they
one
got
burned
healthy
in
scary.
Columbia.
Burned up some folks.
Yeah, burned up.
About 5 years ago, but several have
They
died.
put back a brick building, but
Can we get a motion on this? You wanna include the homes for the aged would be a good idea, I think. But the main thing is I wanna get some action and know what our position is in order to feel like I'm working with a certain amount of authority.
Mr. Chairman, I move we go on record to support the regulation for daycare centers and homes for the aged.
Any further discussion? Not all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now, the next main item of business, of course, is the amended report. We prepared a written report for you, the result of the, interview committee that interviewed the various candidates for governor and lieutenant governor. This report, of course, will be presented, if you adopted this morning, to the larger meeting this afternoon. If the larger meeting this afternoon adopts it, then it will be officially presented to the convention tomorrow. And I'd like to ask Brother Knight now if he would read that report to you. We'll go through it in its entirety and talk about how we think it ought to be handled in the convention.
Before I read it, let me call your attention
got a
to
problem
what is
with
still
this?
a typographical error on page 3. We tried to correct Mike Rainey's name, the spelling of it, but we failed to get it in one place, you know, we never have really enough time to do anything, so we have to.
Well, the situation is normal, it's all snafu, of course, it all began with the change of the
They got
election
two
date.
different-
I guess we,
On the telephone calls, and some of the delegates are supposed to have.
Yes, we haven't got it, R.A.
yeah, which is correct.
The N, the change in the
R-A-N-E-Y. Don't have an I in it.
Same story all.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Nobody has.
would you like to,
Distract
I
the
told
eye.
Brother Knight, we agreed last night that Brother Knight would present this report to the convention. So, he needs to get a little practice on reading the same. We'll ask him to read it to you.
In 1963 and 1967, the regular convention of the Mississippi AFL-CIO Committee on Political Education went on record in support of a bona fide two-party system of government in our state. The Mississippi AFL-CIO Executive Board recommends this position be reaffirmed at this convention, and that we once again advise all candidates for political office that the Mississippi AFL-CIO and its affiliated organizations are not wedded to any political party, As in the past, we intend to judge candidates on the basis of the record and not on the basis of party affiliation. As a matter of fact, this organization stands ready and willing to support Republican candidates when those candidates prove to be better candidates than their Democratic opponents. The same rule also applies to candidates who are running independent of any political party. When the independent candidate establishes the fact that he or she is the best candidate, he can expect to receive the support of this organization. As we approach the 1971 election, we must take note of the fact that this is truly a crucial election year. The man who occupies the governor's office during the next 4 years will determine, to a great extent, whether or not we make progress or stagnate. Special emphasis should be given to the man who is elected Speaker of the House of Representatives. Contrary to the beliefs of many people, the governor is not the most powerful man in state government. The most powerful man is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. He appoints all of the committees that considers each piece of legislation introduced. Each year, we have seen many good bills die in committee because they were referred to a stacked committee. It is imperative that a progressive-minded man be elected as Speaker of the House by his colleagues when the legislature convenes next year. The Executive Board has taken note of the fact that a federal court recently reapportioned both houses of the Mississippi legislature. District lines have been redrawn in virtually all of the Senate and House districts. Some areas of the state will lose representation and others will gain. A careful study of the situation indicates the gains will be in areas where we have many members reside. This means we have a golden opportunity to elect a number of friends as well as defeat a number of enemies. Provided we do our job, we should see a progressive legislature convene in Jackson next January. Again, provided we do our job, that legislature should elect a progressive-minded speaker. The Executive Board is confident we will do the job and is calling upon the delegates to this convention to make sure it is done. The Executive Board, working through the Executive Committee, has attempted to interview all candidates running for district and statewide offices. A sincere effort was made to personally interview all candidates running for governor and lieutenant governor. Written questionnaires were mailed to the candidates for other offices who had qualified with the Secretary of State. The board took note of the fact that a number of the present office holders do not have opposition in this election. The Executive Board is proud of the fact that many of these people received our support 4 years ago. They have apparently done such a good job that no one would oppose them. In addition to governor and lieutenant governor, contests will take place in 2 other statewide positions. They are state treasurer and commissioner of insurance. The Executive Board has carefully evaluated and studied the records of the candidates to these positions. In addition to studying records, we have also taken note of other groups or individuals who may be supporting the candidates. Another factor of great importance is the candidate's ability to appeal to our members, as well as his or her ability to attract voters who are not members of organized labor. 4 candidates for governor accepted our invitation to appear before the interview committee. They were William Waller, Edwin Pittman, Roy Adams, and Charles Sullivan. As of this date, we have not heard from candidates Jimmy Swan, Marshall Perry, or Charles Evans. Invitations were not issued to several candidates who had announced but did not properly qualify. 2 candidates for lieutenant governor appeared before the committee. They were William Winter and Cliff Finch. The 3rd candidate, Elmore Grady, was not issued an invitation after listening to and reading his announcement. The committee did not feel it should waste its valuable time with a candidate who was obviously not qualified to be lieutenant governor. Written questionnaires were mailed to all candidates running for the other state and district positions. 1 candidate for state treasurer, Rex McRaney, requested and was granted an interview with the committee. Mr. McRaney stressed the importance of having a well-qualified man in this important position. He also reviewed his long record of public service to the people of Mississippi, and he advised the committee that he wanted the open endorsement of organized labor. He also advised the committee that he was seeking the votes of every Mississippian regardless of race, creed, or national origin. The other candidate for treasurer, Brad Dye, called while the committee was in session and requested more time to answer the questionnaire. Time was granted and he was given until June 24th to mail in his answers. This report was finalized on the morning of the 24th, and as of that date, we had not heard from Mr. Dye. After reviewing Mr. McRaney's record as well as the record of Mr. Dye, the committee is recommending endorsement of Mr. Rex McRaney for the position of state treasurer. In addition to state treasurer, contests will take place for the positions of insurance commissioner and land commissioner. Candidates for commissioner of insurance are Truett H. Smith and Miss Evelyn Gandy. Candidates for land commissioner are David Perkins and incumbent Watt Carter. The committee carefully reviewed the written answers to all candidates to these two positions. We carefully reviewed the records of these candidates where records exist. We found that Miss Evelyn Gandy has a long and distinguished record of public service to the people of Mississippi. She is presently serving as state treasurer and has served in this position with distinction. She established an excellent record while serving in the legislature and has always been looked upon as a sincere friend of the working people of this state. The other candidate, Mr. Truett Smith, has never held public office and consequently has no record of public service to check. He is currently in the insurance business, a business that will be closely supervised by the Commissioner of Insurance. Considering these facts and the fact that Ms. Gandy has an excellent record, the committee recommends the endorsement of Ms. Evelyn Gandy to the position of Insurance Commissioner. The committee carefully reviewed the answers to our questionnaires by the two candidates for land commissioner. We reviewed the past record as well as other factors. We find that Mr. Perkins has never served in public office and consequently does not have a record to check. On the other hand, the incumbent, Mr. Carter, has served in this position the past 4 years. As far as we can determine, he has served the people well. As in the past, the executive board feels an incumbent official should receive our support when he or she has done a good job. We therefore recommend the endorsement of Mr. Watt Carter for the position of land commissioner.
Let me, while he's getting that drink of water, turn back over to page 2 and where we say in addition to the governor, lieutenant governor contest, will take place, make a 3 out of that.
You'd have to say state treasurer, commissioner of insurance, and land commissioner.
You gotta add the word land commission.
Right, land commission.
When you explain, they're gonna have to just write these changes.
Right. Make
Where is it?
That should be.
They are the state treasurer.
Top of the second page,
Commissioner of Insurance and Land Commission.
second paragraph. Three of it.
It's 3 instead of 2. Write that in.
Land.
What paragraph you talking about now?
Second paragraph on top of page 2.
Page 2. Well, just write in that correctly. Be
Three of the statewide
Be 3 instead of
land.
2, and then we should add the position of land commissioner behind the state treasurer and commissioner of insurance. Okay? Get on
Top of
page
page
4.
four.
Start page 4.
As already reported, the committee interviewed 2 candidates for lieutenant governor, Mr. William Winter and Mr. Cliff Finch. The committee feels we have 2 fine candidates in these 2 gentlemen. Both men answered our questions in an open and free fashion. Both were pretty much in accord with our legislative objectives. However, the committee is of the opinion that Mr. Winter's position is much better defined on a number of issues than was Mr. Finch. Since both candidates have held public office, the committee was able to examine the record of each man. Mr. Finch is currently serving as district attorney in the Batesville area, in addition to serving as district attorney. He also practices law as a plaintiff attorney and has represented injured workers before the Workmen's Compensation Commission, as well as in the courts. As far as the committee could determine, he has been a good district attorney and seems to be a friend of the working man. Even though he does not hold public office at this time, William Winter has served in the state legislature, a state tax collector, an office that he helped abolish, and served a 4-year term as state treasurer. It should also be noted that he was a candidate for governor 4 years ago and lost in a runoff to the incumbent governor. According to the record, William Winter served with distinction in each office he held. The state AFL-CIO has supported Mr. Winter on several occasions and has always looked upon him as a friend. 4 years ago, he did not seek our open support for governor, and consequently, we did not give it to him. In our recent interview with him, he admitted this was a mistake and that his failure to receive our support may have cost him the election. When asked if he wanted our support this year, he was very emphatic in saying that he wanted our help any way he could get it. On the other hand, when Mr. Finch was asked this question, he hedged and indicated he felt an open endorsement by this convention would be more of a liability than an asset. The committee found this attitude to be rather strange, considering that Mr. Finch has never run for a statewide office before. A candidate's chances of winning is one of the factors we must consider before endorsing any candidate. The committee is of the opinion that it would be impossible to support Mr. Finch without an open endorsement. After weighing all of these factors, the committee recommends the endorsement of William Winter for lieutenant governor. As has already been reported, 4 candidates for governor accepted our invitation to meet with our committee. It seems reasonable to assume those candidates who did not bother to even answer our letter of invitation did not want the support of this organization or votes of our members. It also seems reasonable to assume that those candidates who did not meet with us would like to receive the votes of our members, even though several feel an open endorsement would lose their votes in some of the rural areas.
That should be.
Put a lot in there you didn't meet. Well, that did meet, you said did not meet. That did meet. You said that.
Yeah.
Put a lot in there, didn't meet.
Mr. Roy Adams of Tupelo met with the committee and did a poor job of answering our questions. As a matter of fact, he showed very little knowledge of the subjects covered by our questionnaire. He does have a public record of having served as a highway commissioner for a number of years. His record was so bad, however, that our members helped remove him from office 4 years ago. Prior to meeting with Mr. Adams, the committee was curious as to why he was running. During the interview, he resolved that curiosity when he said that his boyhood dream was to run for governor. The committee does not consider him a serious contender, but we do feel that he should be allowed to dream as much as he pleases. Mr. William Waller met with our committee 4 years ago when he was a candidate for governor. Several members of our 1971 committee also served 4 years ago, and at that time the committee was very impressed by the manner in which he answered our questions. While Mr. Waller answered all of our questions this year, the committee felt he did a poor job compared with the one he did 4 years ago. Mr. Waller does have a record of public service, having served as district attorney, and as reported 4 years ago, he served with distinction in that office. In 1967, he ran filth and garnered only 60,000 votes. It is a foregone conclusion that he must do much better this year, and that he will need all the help he can get if he is to be a contender this year. When asked if he wanted our endorsement this year, he hedged and wanted to think about it for a few days. As far as we know, he's still thinking. Senator Edwin Pittman of Hattiesburg has served 2 terms as a state senator. From organized labor point of view, his record is rather spotty. On 2 occasions, he introduced a bill that would have prohibited public employees from striking. This bill was voted down in the Senate in 1969. The committee had quite a discussion with the senator about this particular piece of legislation. Pittman admitted it was a bad bill and that he should have introduced a bill like this without.
Should not.
Should not.
Not have introduced a bill like this without providing for collective bargaining rights for public employees. He said if elected governor, he would not veto a bill that would provide these rights. Senator Pittman was also very favorable on some of labor's other legislative objectives. Pittman pointed out to the committee that he received organized labor support during his last campaign and gave our people credit for his election. When asked if he wanted our support in his campaign for governor, he said that he did. Since this is his first statewide campaign, the committee is of the opinion that he stands little chance of being elected. The committee further feels it would be impossible to endorse him because of his record. Even though we do not feel we can endorse him and feel he has little chance of being elected, he may prove us wrong. After all, he is a very pleasant man, and we could live with him as governor. Lieutenant Governor Charles Sullivan did an excellent job of answering our questions. As a matter of fact, the committee feels he was the most outstanding candidate to meet with us. He expressed his appreciation for the cooperation received by him from organized labor while he was lieutenant governor. He advised the committee that representatives of organized labor and minority groups would be named to positions.
That should be in state.
And
Should be one,
Yeah,
two positions.
there was something in there. We had it in the original.
Mine shows a slight.
If he was elected, Mr. Sullivan has established a good record as lieutenant governor, and he has cooperated with labor representatives while serving in his present capacity. His chances of election seem to be excellent. He is considered to be the man to beat by all of the candidates. A number of people believe he could conceivably win in the first primary. The committee feels there are too many candidates in the race for this to happen, and that there will be a runoff. When asked if he wanted the support of organized labor, Mr. Sullivan said he wanted our people to work for him, but that he was fearful of losing the votes of a number of rural people if we publicly endorse him. The committee pointed out to him that the officers of the state AFL-CIO would be powerless to work for him or any other candidate in the absence of convention action. Mr. Sullivan said he realized this, but still wanted all the help he could get. In final analysis, the committee feels this convention should not endorse a candidate for governor prior to the first primary. The committee does feel, however, that our membership should be supplied with information secured from the candidates by our interview. The committee feels organized labor can live with either Pittman, Waller, or Sullivan. The committee further feels that this convention should recess instead of adjourn. It is the recommendation of the committee that this be done and the executive committee be authorized to reconvene the convention if it deems necessary after we review the results of the first primary.
Well, now, we made a couple of corrections in the report. With everything being like that and with all the confusion, and, you know, we went through the meeting last night, and we had to have a meeting this morning for me to realize that we had 3 statewide positions outside of the lieutenant governor and the governor. So we made that change, that correction in the report. The report now is before the board. What is your question?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, make one other correction. In, the Roy Adams section,
What page?
that's page 5.
You wanna make that 20 years instead of several years?
For, instead of a number of years, for 20 years.
Take 20 out of that instead of a number of years.
Instead of a number of, Just.
For 20 years.
For 20.
Is that all right?
He wants 20
We
years.
strike out the number of years and then instead say 20 years.
On page one.
That was the length of time he served, that is correct. On page one, Marvin?
On page one, I suggest, here on this second sentence, where it says, AFL and its affiliated organizations are not wedded to any political party, add as such. Wouldn't that give a little bit better sense?
All right. Sound like it looks this.
After the word party as such.
Yeah.
Any political party as such.
And what do you think about changing the language here where it says, on down below, the second paragraph, as we approach I won't read it all, skip down to what I'm talking about. The man who occupies the governor's office during the next 4 years will determine to a great extent whether or not we make progress or stagnate. What do you think substituting or drift into a state of stagnation? That's a little bit, I'm not sure that that's correct grammatical structure there on that word, but that's not major, but it seems to me to make better sense. To add, substitute, drift into a state of stagnation rather than to say make progress or stagnate.
Drift or drift? Or drift into a state of stagnation?
Yeah.
Does the committee go along with this change?
Chairman, these changes gonna require the secretary to retype this whole thing, or can they?
No, we don't have the time to do it.
See her has to retype the whole thing.
Well, if we have to do that, we just forget about this. I was just,
And that one,
we're
she's
not
gonna
trying to
have to
make
add
work
more
for
space, so
the
that means
secretary.
she's gonna have to redo that whole page, and these young ladies have worked awful hard.
Couldn't we just
to
point,
get this out.
couldn't we adopt this or whatever the committee wants to do, and then in the convention, point out these things and let each, delegate write in, what the changes are? Because they're minor changes as far as the amount of words are concerned.
Well, yes,
I think we all here understand what we mean, and if there's any question in the convention, I think probably it'll come up anyway, but on that particular thing, they are am I correct, Carolyn, you're gonna have to redo that whole page because of space there, wouldn't you add that
Well,
much
let's
in
not
there?
do that.
And
Well,
she's-
I thought we double spaced it for the purpose, if any changes wanted to be made, that
Have
we
you
could
got
just
the
write
space
them
there
in.
without having to
We've
do
already
that whole
reproduced
thing
them
over?
for the convention, and the delegates will just have to,
right.
write it
That
in.
way.
One
Because
change
they have
up,
worked some long, hard hours on this.
one other
Takes
change
mighty long
on
time to read
page
those,
2 in
When
third
did we adopt-
paragraph.
When
you're
did we
gonna have to-
adopt,
well, let's see,
Wait a
well,
minute,
do
we
we wanna
didn't
make
have
the
any
change
settlement.
suggested by Brother Taylor, or not, before we get over to the?
Well, would it make that much difference with all of these other changes? We're gonna have to tell these folks to get them confused, to writing in?
It's not major. You can just write it in. It's all right. If you
Either
have to
way,
do
it
all the
makes-
typing,
Go along with Brother Taylor. Yeah. Now, which one you wanted, brother? Page
Thir-
2?
Yeah, third paragraph. As of this date, we have not heard from candidates, that we've got to put a D on there, make that heard.
Where is this at now?
Third paragraph, page 2.
The D misses.
Left the D off of that here.
Next to the
Oh, I
last
see,
sentence.
yeah, I see, yeah. Put a D on the heard instead of here. Okay. Any other corrections?
I noticed several places where we had plurals where it ought to be singular, but I don't think it matters. Where it said candidates, where it was a candidate.
Yeah, well.
But that, I don't think it makes a bit of difference.
Well, you have to remember of all of the many problems we've had here, we've been working under all kinds of pressures and deadlines and meeting everything. Frankly, we are lucky
They are
to
something
have
that's got
something
heads on
to
it.
get this morning.
It don't matter.
The committee on doing an excellent job.
Mr. Chairman,
We know it's on
Well, I
the
need to know
Mr.
where
Chairman,
it is,
yeah,
where
I
it is,
move
where
that we
it is.
adopt these,
They was 2 or 3 places on one of them.
what do you call it?
correction.
Report, I move we adopt the report as amended, those words here, and, recommend the committee, plus your staff doing a good job.
I'll second.
Well, did you say they give that motion? Motion was offered by Brother Clark that
Well,
the
we should
report
have
be
had-
adopted. And I believe he said something with the thanks of the committee or something. And what was that you said?
Committee.
Job well done. Well, so the motion is really to adopt the report with a few corrections that's been made. We have a discussion on the motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
ordinarily I would have been present at these interviews, but, under the conditions, it was not possible. But I would like to really emphasize the fact that the committee did a jam-up job, and I'm 100% for this recommendation.
Thank you, sir. I can tell you the committee spent some long hours, and we'll, as we get through here, we'll tell you about some of them, but we'll get some action. Hope to the report.
Could have done the job they done without spending hours.
11:30.
You start out here as, the board is making this recommendation to the convention. Well, over here on the last page, in the final analysis, the committee feels this convention should not endorse the candidate. Don't you think that should be bold?
Well, of course, you know, we start out with committee, we'll wind up with the board, and then tomorrow, this afternoon, it'll be the COPE committee, so I think we ought to leave that open till this afternoon, and then we'll make the correction that the state COPE committee recommends to the convention. You see what I'm talking about, instead of making it board. Let's make that change this afternoon, that the state COPE committee will make that recommendation. You see, we started off with the interview committee, the executive committee, now the full board, and then this afternoon, the state COPE committee made up of the central body officers and the board. So if it's all right with those with you, we'll wait till this afternoon and change it to report that will be the recommendations of the big meeting this afternoon. Okay? We have any further discussion?
Mississippi is gonna be something, Mississippi.
Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now, when the report is presented to the convention tomorrow by Brother Knight, the committee last night felt that instead of voting on the report in its entirety, that we should come back and vote individually on each position that we're recommending to fill.
That's a good idea.
Is that agreeable here this afternoon? That this be done, in other words, we'd come back, and I believe the first one we make a recommendation on is the state treasurer, and then, we take them one at a time, instead of voting on the report in its entirety. Now,
You expecting any opposition on this?
I don't think we're gonna have any problems on anything except the lieutenant governor's position. There are a few people in North Mississippi, some members of IBEW, I understand, members of a Memphis local up there that feel like we ought to be supporting Cliff Bench. And, that's the reason, one of the reasons we think we ought to handle this in one position at a
That's a
time.
good idea.
And, of course, Diane Hawks was on the committee. She's from that area. And we agreed last night, that when we get to this particular position, that several members of the committee that interviewed the candidates will ask for the floor and speak in support of our recommendations and explain some of the things that occurred in the meeting. You know what I'm talking about.
Lord, I kinda got the feeling on the Cliff Finch deal and the lieutenant governor's race is that Elmore Graves is being run as a blind horse in there for the one purpose of bringing out the allegation that Charles Evers is not running anybody for lieutenant governor and he's gonna support, William Winter. Where Cliff Finch won't have to say anything about it. And he thinks that's his one chance of winning, and if he had the endorsement of organized labor, it might dim that change. And, with some of these people that he's expecting to pull his voting strength from.
Well, there is that possibility.
Mr. Chairman, we're trying to make that opportunity that it is last, and I think we can.
Just told you, I said, you talk like a pretty good politician yourself.
After 13 years, I can just about read between the lines. Yeah.
I know. All you got is.
Joe Frank's called me a couple of times.
Robert, hand me another one of those.
The chair wants to take note of the fact that Mr. Dan Powell has arrived. I predicted last night he wouldn't get here before the business was taken care of, and sure enough he didn't. We just got through adopting the report.
One,
You're wrong again, see.
We also want to welcome my good friend, the board member Bob Woodson, who also
Yeah, I
just arrived.
apologize for being late. I have problems.
Chairman, I want to apologize.
I bet you're can't top
it was been suggested, Bob, that you might have been out working for Charles today.
Well,
One thing in this, say we'll support candidates, either party or independent. That independent scared me to death. I had some experience with them, one of them, you know.
here in the
And,
city of Jackson, we've
yeah,
all
and
had
I
that
swore up
experience.
to down that I wouldn't vote for independent if my brother was running as independent. If he can't get in there and put his feet in the fire and face the issues, and then he comes up with something like this cat did,
Why don't you just tell us what you talk about? You talk about this dead case.
I'm talking about Ed Keeks that sat back there and didn't run, and then when they had the runoff there, well, he brought out the man that he was running against, brought it out undercover that he had all of the black support and all of that. Beat the man, and he hadn't been worth 15 cents up there. He's against organized labor. He runs as independent. You don't know what he stands for. Actually, he don't stand for nothing.
Well,
And,
the thing,
when he gets to the legislature, he's got the Republicans against him, he's got the Democrats against him, and he's sitting out on a limb by himself.
well, I think probably the board pretty well agrees with your summation of that thing, that, I think we all realize the situation we're dealing with, talk about the independent status of some of the candidates. And frankly, I shouldn't say this, I guess, should be advised of this, due to the fact that, Charles Evers has announced that he's gonna run for governor. We felt that we should issue an invitation for him to meet with us, even though he's not gonna run until November. We thought we ought to afford him an opportunity to meet with us, at this time. And of course, he hasn't even answered our letter, but that's the reason for that, the verbiage being in the report, and that's the reason for us having said something about independent candidates. I'm not at all concerned about the situation, that's, you know, and, by dealing with Mr. Evers, I've had to restrain myself on several different occasions about this particular situation, because he's made some statements around the state and elsewhere that he's gonna run over this organization, Floyd Ramsden, is doing the full election. And, I have written several letters to all of the international unions about this particular situation, and asking them not to send any money down here to any candidates, and we had a regular proceeding, and intended to follow it. They had the money they wanted to spend, they sent it to me, and I see that it was wisely spent. I don't see any reason for us to get overly concerned about it, but I think everybody on this board ought to be made aware of what the situation is. Now, we had a conference in Atlanta some time ago, about a month ago, I guess it was now. Tom, myself, and Bob Woodson attended that conference, and I want to commend Bob Woodson here this morning for doing an excellent job of putting this whole thing in its proper perspective with our national organization. I'm not gonna afford this guy, an opportunity, you know, for a forum between me and him. I'm not a candidate for governor, he's running for governor, you know. And I'm not gonna get myself in a position, if possible, that he's gonna get out here and start making speeches now about this big bad labor movement. We're not gonna allow this to happen if at all possible. But I did think it ought to be briefly touched on here this morning. As far as I'm concerned, in this election, the primary objective is to elect good people to office. Where we've got the good black candidates running against bad white candidates, I think we need to support some good black candidates, especially in the legislature. You know what I'm talking about? Bob
Yeah.
Clark, for instance, we've already gone on record. This man's got a good record in the legislature.
What bothers me on the thing with Bob Boyd, he wouldn't run as a Democrat or Republican, and he's looks like he's following the Evers group running as an independent. I don't know
Well,
what the situation up there, but we going on
The
record.
situation is this, that he don't feel that he can get that vote out 3 times in succession. Now, let's face up to it. We're in a real period of transition in Mississippi as far as political alignments are concerned, as far as political parties are concerned. And I think after this election this time, that we're gonna begin to see a realignment of forces, and that we will see the development of a bona fide two-party system. And I think that this organization, the people sitting at this table, are gonna have to shoulder a lot of the responsibility to make sure that this happens, and that everything takes place as it ought to be, you know.
You know, we discussed that when the bill was before the legislature to change the election laws, it would have done away with the independent status, and we was both very much in favor of changing the election laws for that same reason, and it would do away
Case
with it.
situation,
Yeah.
drove this home to us.
Yeah.
Well, now, Brother Powell, you have arrived, and we have completed our business, and we still have. We didn't get the motion? Did we vote it?
I think, yeah.
We voted it up. Yeah. We have completed the business we need to take care of here this morning before the meeting this afternoon. Would you like to address the board, Brother Powell? And I think I saw Brother Starnes come in. Yeah, there he is. Brother Starnes also was present.
Mr. Ramsey, the only thing I wanna say, I called down to the desk last night before I went to bed, leave a call at 7 o'clock. And I found that some smart aleck had left a call for me at 4, and another one at 4:15. So I told the desk clerk what I thought of the person that would do that, and I told him to cancel those calls. But unfortunately, I woke up this morning at 4 o'clock, and I woke up again at 4:15. The result was that I missed the 7 o'clock call, stepped through. So, with that all of my mind, I know who the guilty party was, after we smoked the cigarettes, we're gonna give him cancer. I was interested in your discussion a while ago about independence. And the bill that put out on independence. The support of Republicans or Democrats and independents for vote policy. And I think you'd better think about this for a while, because you're a minority group in the state. And as a minority, you have less power if you've got a rigid setup in the state than if you have a flexible setup. And if there is an independent movement developing in the state in the general election, it seems to me that increases your bargaining power tremendously. You remember for years that Mississippi was a one-party state. And as such, the Democratic Party in this state is controlled by a handful of the rich. And you had no power at all. Now, as this thing is developed, and Mississippi is no longer a one-party state, at the same time your political power has increased. So that's something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. you was thinking about?
Yeah.
We did get some money out of the national organization to help provide, this is what you mean.
I
Not
know
something
he was
did
thinking
have-
about it on the coast, though.
I did, I do think he had a little something to do with that, yeah.
Well, in the first place, let me correct that, I was not thinking about it, you all were thinking. But I'll say this, the brother's very adept at shaking that Dixie cup.
Well, I wish Amy Hollowell was here, you know, Amy, ACWA in Water Valley, came down and worked with us for about a month. How long was she down for? 6 weeks. And, she left here with a better understanding of what goes on in the office. We had a saying around there for a while, I wrote it out on the card, to try to make the girls feel better, don't worry about the view, just blow the hell out of the wagon. Later on, I said, well, we shall overcome someday, we hope, but this is the way it's been, with the court changing up the election date, and everything has been real hectic, you know what I'm talking about. We just had to do the best we could under the circumstances. And of course, we're gonna wind up, when this is all over, just as broke as we can be. I don't know, we'll probably have to get a gun and go out and rob a bank, finance an organization.
We couldn't get Dan to think again.
What?
We couldn't get Dan to think again, could we?
Anyhow, I think we are, you know, considering everything, that we are in pretty good shape right now. If we can do the job as we point out in the report, in the election of the legislature, and if we can get a good speaker, I think, we're gonna really start moving forward in the next 4 years. What we'll have to do after this convention's over with is take a real close look at our financial affairs, count our pennies, and decide where those pennies can best be spent. Now, I want all of you to know, when you're interviewing candidates for the legislature, that money is real scarce, and I don't want you to make any big promises to candidates about we've got a lot of money to put at their disposal in the election, because we don't have, but we will have a few bucks that we can spend in some of the crucial situations. I think I mentioned to you this afternoon, the meeting, we're gonna have some people in here in the areas where we don't have central bodies and matches area, the Ball area, the Macomb area. We've asked them to come in, we've asked, Representative Case to be here around 3 o'clock this afternoon. We're gonna ask all of the central bodies to give us a report on what the situation is in their given area, what needs to be done. We're gonna have Case present. We want y'all to meet the man that we think will be the Speaker of the House. At least if we do our job, he'll be the next Speaker. We want you to know it. We're gonna have him on the program tomorrow. He's gonna address the convention. We want all of the delegates to know who we're talking about. We want them to have an opportunity to shake his hand, and then I think they'll feel more inclined to go out and do a better job. But, we're not gonna load the convention down tomorrow with speakers. We're gonna have Dan on for a little while, and if Bill Webb is here, we think Bill will be here. I want to afford him a few minutes. You all remember Bill, he used to be here with the state director of CWA about 10, 12 years ago. One of the real outstanding guys we had at that time. He told us in Atlanta he was gonna try to be here, and if he's here, I think we ought to give him a few minutes on the program.
Well, you might point out that Bill is now the co-director for the communications work.
Right.
In addition to having,
Then, of course, after this is over with, we'll caucus. We'll break up into caucuses, as we have in the past. The delegates from the Southern District will caucus and bring back recommendations on the Highway Commission position and the Public Service Commission. There are no district contests in the Central District, therefore the delegates from Hinds County in that area can just go get coffee, do what they want to. We do have a contest for Highway Commission in the Northern District, therefore the Northern District will have to caucus and bring back a recommendation. Now, if it's agreeable with the board, I'm gonna appoint Brother E.B. Edwards to chair the caucus in the Northern District, and Brother H.H. Robbins to chair the caucus in the Southern District. That agreeable? All right. I guess I ought to go over the committee assignments if we're gonna have.
Yeah, let them, the chair, know what they got to do and what not.
All right. We'll have to have a couple of committees. One is the Restoration and Credentials Committee, and another, the Rules Committee, and of course, some Sergeant at Arms. We'll have to have these committees, and of course, the Credential Committee will do as they have in the past, get the delegates registered, get them seated. After this is done, we'll have to adopt the rules to operate the convention by. And of course, we'll have to have some Sergeant at Arms, some keyboard, and throw the drums out and stuff like that.
Out or in?
Depends on whether it's more them than all of us.
May let a man, it's right.
On the Restoration and Credentials Committee, we've got James Jackson, Chairman, H.H. Robbins, Diane Hawks, Amy Hollowell, Mary Nell Whip, Linda Smith, Francis Bell, B.C. Smith, and Betty Sue Riley. On the Rules, we've got Marvin Taylor, Chairman, Bob Woodson, E.V. Edwards, Herbert Williams, Wayman Goodman, George Johnson, Mary Smith, and how do you pronounce it, Lois Hampton?
Eloise.
Eloise.
Scratch Goodman, he won't be Goodman.
You can't make it?
Well, I've been told this morning.
You can't make it to Malone? Goodman won't be here?
That's what I was told.
You are the vice president of the CLU, aren't you?
Yeah,
Well,
but
we were.
he told me, last week he was gonna be here, but something must come up.
Well, anyhow, if he's not here, then we'll have to depend on you to make the report.
I think the electrical workers have got some kind of, meeting or something in Memphis. I know the president of the Tupelo Center body won't be here.
Rubber work.
Rubber work.
District eight rubber.
Yeah, rubber work.
Excuse me.
Well, we're on the Sergeant at Arms, we got, Curtis Orman, Rennie Stalk, P.G. Beckham, Charlie Horn, and Russell Kelly. Now, really not much for you to do here, we're having a material to pass out and stuff like that, as the name. Does anybody know of anybody else we don't have on a committee that you think ought to be on a committee? Any of you would like to serve on a committee?
I'll give them my place.
Well, I guess that's pretty well it, Mr. Chancellor. I want to ask Bob, see if Bob got you, huh?
I'd like to redo this second page and I'm gonna take the leads and, get it put in there before the co-committee meeting.
Go back to where you had that three.
Yeah, I'd like to redo that, and then the other are changes by the committee,
Yeah.
other than one typographical on that rank.
Right.
And,
You want to take them back and redo the same page, okay? You think you can do that for 136?
yes, if we adjourn.
All right, well, we're about to, I think. Bob, would you like to have a word to say? We're glad to see you out this morning.
Thank you, Claude. I was asked a while ago if I can make a speech as short as Dan Powell did.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
said, hell yes, I can beat Dan Powell doing anything he can do. I can make no speech. So it's nice to see all of you keep up the good work.
Let's stay together, I think. We'll adjourn until 1:30 and we'll come back to this same room. Central bodies. We want to review with you your situation, district by district, especially those people running for the House of Representatives. Now, we're going to have Case on the program tomorrow. He's an announced candidate for Speaker, a position that's much more important to us than the governor itself, you see. We want you folks to know it. We want you to know who we're working for, and we want you to hear him tomorrow. So, let's see, who else have we got? Bill Devine ain't got here yet?
There's a couple of
Who else
woodworkers
are we
not
waiting on?
here, and then we've got 2 or 3 other ladies who are serving as, substitute chairman for one.
They're here, but they haven't
Yeah.
got to eat.
Right.
We know that some of you've had some real problems of getting here, and we know that you've had a lot of problems in getting rooms and all this stuff, but hopefully we'll get all these problems worked out. You might be more sympathetic if you knew about some of the problems we've had at the state office. You know, Amy Hollowell can give you a pretty good idea about the kind of problems we've been having, but, when the court threw out the open primary election law, and we had to revert back to the old election laws, and we found ourselves right in the middle of nowhere and had to completely revise our plans and everything and trying to get ready for today. And, well, I'm not too sure we're ready yet. You know what I'm talking about. We're going to do the best we can. And I understand some of you have had trouble finding the place, so we've already advised the hotel idea they need a bigger sign. You know, you drove up and down that highway several times, I'm sure some of you did, trying to find the place. And on top of all of that, the manager of this place died here some time back, and apparently they haven't got around to naming a new manager. So we talked with one guy on the desk out here, and we get things worked out, we think, satisfactorily, where everybody that's going to be in the meeting today will be in this motel. Then they change horses out there on the desk, and the woman comes in, and she don't know what the arrangements are. So this has been part of the problem. But we did tell them that we wanted everybody that's going to be in attendance today in this motel. And the understanding was if they couldn't accommodate everybody tonight for the convention tomorrow, to put the rest of them at the Sheraton. So all of you in this motel here this afternoon? Huh? Three of us went to Sheridan, but that's all right.
Well, if you want to get back over here, we'll try to move you. Well, so I had to...
We were just glad we were.
There's one thing about it. There's one thing about it. All the people over there. I understand you got a better room over there anyway. Maybe you like it over there better. All right. No question about it. Yeah. So bear with us just a few minutes, and we'll get this thing cranked up as soon as a couple more people get here. Maybe Shorty, where's Shorty? Now we've had some people had some real problems getting up here. For instance, Diane Hawk, her car broke down. Where was it, Diane? Grenada. And she had to hitchhike, and she drove up in here late yesterday afternoon, and a transportation truck picked her up in Grenada and detoured around into the motel and dropped her off. And this fella out here ain't got over that yet. He can't figure out how in the hell one of our members of what she's doing coming in here in a transportation truck. See? Now, another one of our people present here tonight was coming in town late last night and run into a herd of cattle down in Hattiesburg and completely demolished his car, but he did get some air tags, I understand. He got the name of the gentleman that the cows belong to. That's Shorty Cornell up here. Stand up and let him see you, Shorty. Come on up.
Air tags too.
And I understand, Miss Smith, you also had trouble. Your car also broke down, right? So so you know, I guess.
She going back to the coast?
Wait, maybe we might be lucky, you see.
I'm renting a car.
She said she rented a car. Maybe we just lucky as the devil to be here, huh? Now, do we have anybody else that we need to wait on? Well, Tom says he thinks we can get on the way. Hopefully this meeting won't take too long, and we're happy to have all of you sit in on the meeting all this afternoon, but the meeting, after we adopt the report, is designed primarily for the central body people and the ones that I've invited in from the areas that we don't have an active central body. All of you are invited to sit through the whole thing, but keep in mind that after we adopt the report for the convention tomorrow, some of you, if you've got business to take care of, go right ahead. Yeah.
Before we turn you loose, if you'd stay with us, we'd like to register everybody that's here in this meeting. Now, there's a reason for this. You'll be happy, and we'll be happy, and everybody will be happy. Because we're not going to register tonight, as we usually do before a regular convention. There'll be no registration tonight. Now, we've got the necessary equipment and facilities and talent and et cetera here that we need to register to be. I see the chairman of the registration committee nodding in agreement. Holler amen a time or two. We'll all feel better. Seriously, Curtis, I want you to make sure that nobody gets out that door back there. And if they do, then I'm going to have to put some high life on you because you're going to have to give them. So let's please bear with us so we can register you So, you won't have to do that in the morning, and you'll be glad, we'll be glad, and all that kind of thing.
Get that pad started around, let them sign that pad.
Well, we got two different pads here now, and some of these, it's gonna be difficult. Some of these people are merely guests at the convention, and most of them are delegates, so it's gonna be kind of difficult to do this while we're waiting. We got two different pads.
Did you ever, on these committees that would be in this meeting today? So let me call them out for you, and you make a note of what committee you're on if you're present. Restoration and Credentials Committee, James Jackson, Chairman, H.H. Robbins, Diane Hawks, Floyd Berry, Amy Hollowell, Mary Nell Whips, Francis Bell, V.C. Smith, and Betty Sue Riley. That's credentials. That's Mr. Jackson. Stand up and let him see you. That's the chairman of that committee. On the Rules Committee, we have Mr. Marvin Taylor, Chairman, Bob Woodson, E.V. Edwards, Herbert Williams, George Johnson, Mary Smith, and Eloise Hampton. This is Mr. Taylor sitting up here, the chairman of the Rules Committee. Have you seen that they've made the thing available to you? We drafted them like they've been, and you get them together, and if you got any changes, we'll just write them in, see. Sergeant at Arms, Curtis Orman, Prentice Dawkins, T.G. Beckham, Charlie Horn, and Russell Kelly. Okay, that's it. Yes, Brother Dees.
Chairman of the other committee, stand up, so they know who they are.
All right, this is Brother Taylor here, Chairman of the Rules Committee. And you'll probably want to get them together this afternoon after we adjourn. And Brother Jackson will probably want to do the same thing with his committee, won't you? Get them organized after the meeting. Yeah. Try to get them together and get things lined up sometime this afternoon, right? Huh? What? Well, Clark is usually as chairman of the entertainment committee. That's automatically understood. Yeah, I saw you back there. I knew that's what you was doing. Please stand. We'll ask Brother Taylor to give the invocation.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this occasion that brings us together on the eve of our convention. We pause to give Thee thanks for all the blessings Thou hast bestowed upon the working people of this state, realizing that we have a long ways to go yet. As we come up to the time in which we will begin our political action, we trust that Thou will endow us with the leadership of Thy Spirit, and that the responsibility that we assume will be not lightly taken, that what we say and what we do, positions that we take, can and does and will affect possible economic, social, and even the spiritual welfare of all of the citizens of the state of Mississippi. Impress upon us the importance, the things that we're about to go into, the positions that we take, the recommendations that we make. Lead us and guide us and use us to do Thy will at all times. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
We will probably come on up front, Billy. There's a couple of seats up here.
Y'all thinking about that golf cart,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, man.
Well,
How you getting on?
we will now proceed. We'll ask Brother Tom Knight to read the report. It is now the report of the executive board. The full executive board that met this morning and adopted the report that was put together by primarily the executive committee, plus a few other board members we asked to serve on the interviewing committee. I might say that this committee spent many long hours in interviewing these candidates, and some of them we had to meet with at night in order to accommodate them because of their schedule. And this is the, sir,
Some on Sunday.
and one on Sunday. We started out on the Sunday afternoon at 6 o'clock and wound up at about midnight, I believe, on a Tuesday. But anyhow, this is the report. We're going to get right into it. All of you should have a copy. It was adopted this morning unanimously by the full executive board. We will now ask Brother Knight to read it to you. We'll read it in its entirety, and then if you want to come back and discuss a particular section or make some amendments to it, then we'll take it up at that time. But we'd like for you to hear it all before we do try to do anything with it. Brother Knight. Now, if any of you want to discuss the report or have anything to say, we'd like to ask everybody else to be real quiet in order that we can pick it up. We don't have a PA system, and we want to make sure we get it into the record if we can. Okay?
This convention should recess instead of adjourn. It is the recommendation of the committee this be done, and that the executive committee be authorized to reconvene the convention if it deems necessary after we review the results of the first primary. I'll move the adoption of this report, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
All right, you've heard the motion to adopt the report. Do we have any discussion? Let me say that the executive board this morning took the position that after the report was presented to the convention tomorrow, that instead of adopting it in its entirety, as we're probably going to do here, that we'll come back and vote on each candidate for each position individually. You understand what I'm talking about? Well, we began making the first recommendation, instead of voting on the whole thing, as you've got it here now, we'll vote on each office separately. All right, do we have any discussion?
Laura, I'd just like to ask you a question.
Yeah.
When I went into the meeting with you, why did Mr. Sullivan age so for this year?
Sullivan?
Yeah.
Just as the report points out there, that he felt that he would lose apparently the votes of some of the rural people. He said if he could get the endorsement of the Manufacturers Association, he'd be happy to have our endorsement. But apparently a number of the candidates feel, and this is Bill Waller as well, that an endorsement by organized labor in this state will lose them votes instead of gaining votes. This was the attitude of some people last year. Bill Winter, you know our experience with Bill Winter 4 years ago, and I think the members of the committee that sit in on the interviewing with Mr. Winter can tell you, as this report indicates, that Bill Winter's had a complete change of mind. And he frankly feels that if he had had our outright support 4 years ago, he might well have been governor, and he's begging for it now. And apparently, we haven't got to the point yet that a prominent candidate for governor feels that our endorsement's an asset instead of a liability. And Sullivan and Waller both fit this category. And Pittman he's so far behind, see, that he realizes he needs the help of organized labor to make the primary. Have I answered your question satisfactorily? Yeah. All right. Tom says he thinks maybe we ought to, have a little discussion, maybe with some members of the committee that was there. For instance, Diane Hawks there is from up in the Batesville area. And I had been led to believe, and she had been led to believe, that Cliff Finch was going to go all out for organized labor's support, an open endorsement, what have you. And he didn't do that. He also hedged and took a strange position with the committee, and it was for that reason, and the fact that Bill Winter was forthright and asked for an outright open endorsement, that we recommended Bill Winter. But Diane, would you like to have a word to say on this, about our experiences with Mr. Finch? This seems to be the only place where some of our people might be a little undecided, as the Lieutenant Governor's saying.
probably those of you that are from the northern part of the state know pretty well what his record has been as district attorney there. And I was under the impression that, he would come here to meet with the committee and was wanting our full support all over the state. And at the end of the committee meeting, I wasn't sure what he'd even been doing in the northern part of the state. It was not the same Mr. Finch that I've been knowing for the last 16, 20 years. And I think we have some members, I understand, in the northern part of the state, particularly in the IBEW, that felt this way. And they're a little bit in question as to why we're not endorsing him. Well, there's no question in my mind now that we couldn't go back and endorse this man. After the way he hedged on our questions, several of the committee members presented questions to him that there was a yes or no that could be given, and he didn't do it. He went around the issue. And it finally got to the point, and it got kind of heated in the room, and Claude and Tom just backed back from the table and let us have at him. And I don't lose my cool too often in public, and I did that night with him. And I made him give me a yes or no answer, or at least I thought I did, but when I got through, I realized he still hadn't done it. So the man is, he's never run for statewide office. I was under the impression that more people knew of him, and since being on the committee here and talking with people from other parts of the state, I found that he's not as well known as I thought. He's a candidate, and that's it. He's a politician from way back, and he politics, and that's exactly what he come in that committee meeting doing, was come in there campaigning, and that was it. He was gonna give us a campaign speech and be done with us, I think. I don't think he really realized the importance of what we could have done for him. And although he has represented these people in these cases, it surprised me greatly to know that the record, and I think Claude can back me on this, on his record as far as his cases, he's won a great many of them for the working people. And then he is, he's not really, as organized labor, I don't think he's recognized yet exactly who we are. He wants the support of the people of Mississippi, but he hasn't recognized the fact that we are those people. And I've got some problems, I know, in the northern part of the state, and I'm afraid there's gonna be a lot of them when I get back after this convention tomorrow that I'm gonna be faced with, that I'm not sure I'm gonna know how to handle them, and I'm gonna be asking as many of you as you can in that part of the state to help me with it. But Mr. Finch is definitely not the man. He did answer some of our questions in our favor. I'll say that for him, but when it came point blank to the fact that he wanted our endorsement openly and publicly known, he did not as organized labor, he wanted it as the people. And I asked him, I believe in that meeting, just who the hell he thought we were, if we're not the people of Mississippi. And I'm very disappointed in him, and as I say, I don't know all of y'all or what section of the state you're from, but if you're in that district which he serves, I'm sure you're familiar with him, and that he's served well there as district attorney. But undoubtedly past the law practice, this gentleman has not got it for the legislature and not for the whole state of Mississippi. And in my opinion, that this committee couldn't have possibly gone with him. And I don't think he'll carry the northern part of the state now.
Well, thank you, Diane, that's well put. Let me tell you who all was on the committee in order that we started out primarily with the executive committee made up of the vice president and secretary treasurer Knight and myself, and then a couple of members were not able to attend all the meetings, so we asked Brother Rainey, Brother Woodson, here in the Jackson area, and Brother Williams from Gulfport, and Sister Hawks to serve on the committee. So we had a fairly, I think, representative group of people off of our board serving on this committee. Now, Brother Edwards, would you like to have a word to say?
Yeah, I'd like to have a word to say. I was the one that asked
did he want organized labor's open endorsement in this campaign? I thought that question could have been answered with a simple yes or no. Yes, I do, or no, I don't. But instead of that, he tried to answer my question by asking me a question. So, in the ramification of this whole thing, that's where Diane came back and refreshed his memory about 15 minutes later after a conversation about the question that I had asked a direct question and I had not gotten a direct answer. In asking Mr. Finch some other questions about what would be his position on various things, he seemed like he's the people's candidate in this campaign, and he's going to let the people decide on the various issues that come up while he's presiding officer of the Senate. He's going to let the people make the decisions that he should make from the rostrum of the Senate. Now, how is he going to let the people? And Paul pointed out to him that there'd be some of the people at his right hand up there at the time that he'd be called on to make these decisions. But he never would get around to saying that he would support this or he would support that, bills that we would be interested in. So it seemed like that after interviewing Mr. Adams, and he was the people's candidate, that he was going to let all the people decide everything that the governor should be deciding, but he was going to let all the people of the state of Mississippi make all the decisions. And that's the way Mr. Finch came up. And to me, I was on the interviewing committee 4 years ago when Mr. Winter gave us the famous answer that he did 4 years ago. And it seems like to me that Mr. Finch was out trying to win a winner. So his answers and his answers to whether or not he wanted Republican endorsement was a repetition of what William Winter had given us 4 years ago.
Thank you, Brother Edwards. Anybody else? Any other members of the committee would like to have a few words of enlightenment? The report that we presented to you is factual, and as far as we are concerned, we're trying to give you the facts as the committee found it. We're not trying to pull any punches. We're putting it all out there for you. We think you need to have all the information possible. All right, we hopefully can get this room cool off a little bit. You all check your air conditioning to see if they're up at top speed. It's getting pretty hot up here. Huh? Sending somebody. Bob, did you want to go?
Yeah, God, I'd like to say, even though I was only able to be on a couple of interviews, I found that the candidates that we interviewed, these guys really know right from wrong.
Yeah.
All of them, they really know what it takes to move the state forward. But the problem is that they don't seem that they're ready to venture out into what it takes because of the fact that it takes a political disadvantage to them. Now, I can understand that these guys, most of them was reluctant to say that they wanted the endorsement of the state AFL-CIO. Well, it's a fact, that the public endorsement of the state AFL-CIO would be a political disadvantage to some of these candidates in some areas. But what we feel is that our endorsement would be a vote that would overbalance the vote that they would lose by not having the endorsement. But I think we should face the reality that where these guys speak of areas that our public endorsement will be a disadvantage to them, in the rural areas I know it will be a disadvantage to them. And of course, I don't know if this means anything or not to us, but but it really means something to those cats, the way they look at it. You know, a person who's running for candidate, it means something to them, because what he's interested in doing is getting elected. You know, he don't care whether I elect him or you elect him, what he wanna do is get in office. Now, what we're concerned about is he gonna do his thing when he get there.
Right.
But, I can say to the person present here today, that these fellows who are running for office, they really know what needs to be done to move the state forward. Now, what are they gonna do, I couldn't tell you that.
Thank you, Bob. Let me take just a couple of minutes with you and talk about something other than the top positions. And one of the races that I think that you're going to be decisive in, that's the state treasurer's position. Now, we've got two candidates running for this position who have never made a statewide campaign. And I think the issues are clearly defined in this one. We've got a contest between a man that's been handpicked by John Bell Williams and Brad Guy, the man that managed his campaign 4 years ago, a man that this group of people is now grooming for a higher political office. Now, Rex McRaney, I've invited him to come by this convention tomorrow. We're not going to put him on the program, because if we do that, then we'd have to invite a lot of other people and be here 2 or 3 days. But I want you to understand how crucial this one is, and that I consider this position for state treasurer to probably be one of the most important elections we're going to get into this time. I'm not too concerned about William Winter. William Winter's run several statewide campaigns, and with our support and the support he's got elsewhere, I think he's going to go in with a landslide. You see? But we have this situation with the state treasurer that we are very concerned about. You know what I'm talking about? Because we can't sit by and let John Bell pick him a man to groom for lieutenant governor 4 years from now, and then governor. This is what they have in mind. I wanted you to know this. Okay, Larry? Did you want to go? Yeah, okay. Well, are you ready for the vote? Do you want some more discussion? The motion is to adopt the report. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now that takes care of the business of this particular group. We, again, got through a little early. I've asked Milton Case to be here at 2:30. She says we're going to have to clear the room, let the room cool off again. And maybe we will. Now, maybe we can start getting people registered. Now, those of you that are not going to stay for the second phase of the meeting, we'd like to get you registered if you want to leave. So we'll recess right now. You got something you want to tell them?
Well, maybe I'm